Hello, my name is Dawn Campbell, Director of the IAPC&M, and today I'm here with Jerri Udelson, founder of the ICW, International Coaching Week, which was established in February 1999. Now, there's a lot of information written about ICW, so we're not going to spend too much time on that, because lots of things have happened in your life since then, and you've become an author of a fabulous book. But I just wanted to start, if I may, Jerri, by asking you just a little bit about what motivated you as a young coach all those years ago. Think, yes, I want to establish ICW, a platform, as it were.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. That's a really good question. I was really frustrated with the lack of press about coaching, and I lived in Boston at the time, and coaching was pretty fledgling at that time. It had just, yeah. I've been a coach actually for 30 years before there was a term for coaching, and I do consultative coaching, but there really wasn't any press around it. So I got on a tear and decided that I would do something to promote coaching. So I created National Coaching Week, and I put it in this book, a reference book called Chase's Calendar of Events, so that people all over would see it and be able to use it as a vehicle to promote coaching, and also to honor and respect the results made through the coaching process. So it was to promote coaching in a way that would be significant, at least nationally. And then after the first year, the Canadian coaches were like, well, we want to be involved. So then I changed the name to International Coaching Week. It really started, it was just a little tiny idea I had. And I sent press releases out in the Boston area. And then Thomas Leonard of Coachfield, one of the founders of the modern coaching movement, as they say, he got involved, and he designed a logo and created a domain for it. And then it just took off, and way beyond anything I could have imagined. It's pretty shocking when people are in Uzbekistan, and I was on a call a few years ago, a Zoom conference with coaches in India, places I never would have thought, Romania. And so people are doing a lot of pro bono coaching now, which I think is great, in honor of Coaching Week. And I offer laser coaching to people. Yeah. And people do all kinds of creative things, and it's just amazing something like this could have taken off. So I just am happy to be the one who planted the seed, but I don't take a lot of credit anymore for it.
It's a great part of your legacy, though, Jerri.
Oh, thank you.
And just to let you know, we have people in Sri Lanka doing a whole week's worth of events. We have people, as you say, in India, but also the old Eastern Bloc countries like Romania, Hungary. So it is truly international. I think it's an amazing thing that you've created.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty shocking to me. It's sort of like having created Mother's Day here, which is a big deal in the U.S. I don't know if they have it in the U.K., but again, I think I'm just a vehicle for having done it. If I hadn't created it, someone else would. So I really don't. I have never used it to really leverage business, or that's my key. I have never really used it to promote myself or to leverage my business or anything. It's just something that is part of my resume or whatever,
Yeah. Well, I think one of the amazing things about it is that you didn't have ownership of it. You invited all coaches to take responsibility as professional practitioners around the world and embrace it. And so it belongs to everybody, and that's why I say it's part of your legacy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think that was always very important to me, because I didn't want anyone to capitalize it and to sort of own it and take credit for it. And I, at the very beginning, went around to people who had large numbers, a large following, and I was asking them to promote it. This is before Facebook or the internet or email or anything. And I would reach out to people that I knew who had different followings, including it was basically national. including, as I said, Thomas Leonard and just people I knew. And so it's kind of spread organically. And I think an organic is the great way to grow one's business. You know, you do what you can, but you just hope that it will be something that will catch on.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, there's lots of movements like the Pay It Forward Foundation, where it's all about compassion and sharing with others. So it links beautifully with your idea of doing some pro bono coaching and having this global celebration and platform for people to share. Because a lot of people say they get into coaching because they like helping people. But obviously it takes a lot more than that. It takes, you know, proper coaching, training, and so on. So to be able to perhaps make coaching available for some people who either haven't tried it before or feel that they can't afford it, this is a great week for everybody to pay it forward and give something back, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And I do hope people will take advantage of this as a platform to really come up with creative and inspiring ways to promote coaching, but more to help other people with a vehicle of coaching.
Yeah, definitely. Now I know that you said you've been in coaching for what, 30 odd years? So
30 years.
Yeah. So what are some of the changes you've seen, Jerri? I know you're not you've got other passions outside of coaching. But you know, keeping an eye on the pulse, as it or finger on the pulse, as it were. What are some of the changes you've seen in that time?
Well, I think there's a couple trends. One is the real professionalization of the field and people really getting training and using their credentials in order to legitimize the profession and to really get skilled and become more niche based. Like I'm a business coach and I obviously do life coaching as part of business coaching, and a subspecialty of mine is real estate, as well as entrepreneurs and people starting businesses. So there's the niche based and there's a more professionalization. And I think a bad trend is that people have taken the word coaching and there's everything from potty training coaches to food coaches to sober coaches to I don't even know, you know, that the word has become debased in a way. And I have often gotten on my high horse, so to speak, about this because I really I think it does debase the profession, even though coaching is an offshoot of sports coaching, which I think is probably the first use of the term. Yeah. But the kind of coaching we do with the kind of training and certifications that the different organizations have required and promulgated over the years, that shows that we stand apart from people who just hang out a shingle saying, you know, I'm a whatever coach, you know, and a clutter coach or something, you know. It's fine that people have professions, but it's unfortunate that they call themselves coaches when they really are giving advice or teaching or doing training or something. Yeah, so that's another trend I see.
Yes, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're saying from statistics at the moment that there's about 130,000 people in the UK calling themselves coaches.
My goodness.
The number is much, much smaller for those who have actually been properly trained or insured and or accredited by a professional body. But people have this impression that I'm really helpful and I love giving advice and I love people, so therefore I'm coaching. It is quite dangerous in some respects. So certainly at the IAPC&M, our focus is very much on protecting the public. Some of these people probably are great coaches by, you know, experience. So we're not saying because you've not gone down the traditional route of training that you can't be a great coach. We're not saying that at all. But we're saying to the public, just as you would if you were hiring a driving instructor and a lawyer or an accountant or a surgeon, do your due diligence, protect yourself, protect your well-being and your hard-earned cash, and make sure you're going with the best in class. And certainly somebody who's properly trained and hopefully insured and has experience and testimonials to back that up. And then the cherry on the cake being formally accredited, not just for the sake of being accredited, but because it's a really important part of somebody's CPD. It's an affirmation of what they've achieved. So that's our mission. Accepting that, you know, there are a lot of great people out there who, with the best will in the world, are calling themselves coaches. They don't have the skills to deal with what comes out of Pandora's box, do they?
Yeah. And I was on a committee at one point of master coaches here, master certified coaches, and I wanted to come up with a new name for coaching but I never was able to. Because to distinguish people who have had rigorous training and are credentialed and are committed to the profession and aren't just giving advice in one little domain, it's not really coaching. But I haven't been able to come up with anything.
I think putting the word professional in front of it does go some way to creating that important differentiator.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah.
So
well, let's see.
Sorry.
I said maybe we could come up with something.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have put our thinking caps on. So what are some of the things that you've been doing then, Jerri, since you were a hardcore coach?
Well, I'm still coaching, and I love coaching, and I was thinking about what I like to do for fun, and meeting with clients either on the phone or in person. It's one of the great joys of my life. But I've also written a book I have a co-author. Here's the book, Beyond the Sale. Yep. And one of my specialties is coaching entrepreneurs and self-employed professionals. And I was a real estate agent a number of years ago for a few years. And I have a lot of training in a lot of different fields. So I put it all together, and all the work and study and research and experience I've had with real estate agents. And I decided to write a book. And so the genesis of the book was that I wanted to write sort of similar to how I created Coaching Week, was I wanted to have a new vehicle to get more clients and to promote coaching, and in this case to promote myself, unlike Coaching Week. So I had a friend who was Ken Tatunjian, who is the manager of one of the top real estate offices in Boston, Massachusetts. And I approached Ken, and I live in Santa Fe, which is on the other side of the country, but I was visiting Boston, where I used to live for many years. And I approached Ken, and I said, I really want to write this short book. And, do you want to help me? Thinking he would be really great at promotion, since he knows a gazillion people, and he's out and about, and he manages over 85 agents, and he's been in the Boston area for many years. And I thought it would be a good combination. He also has a lot of experience managing agents, so he saw agents from sort of a different perspective than I did as their manager versus their coach. So we started writing this book, and we would meet every Sunday, 9 a.m. in Boston, Santa Fe time, and 11 in Boston. We would talk on the phone it took about 3.5 years to write, 3 years to write the book. Which was, there were some delays, but it took a long time, and he added a tremendous amount because he has great anecdotes, examples, and he has a lot of resources in the tech field and in other areas that are real estate related, whereas I come from a coaching background, and I do know a lot about real estate, but he had more eyes to the ground or feet to the ground than I do. So we worked on this for a really long time, and I did all the writing, but he did tremendous contribution of the anecdotes, and he pushed me to make it better. He would say, this section is a little thin, and we need to add this, and let's talk about this. So he made a great contribution to the book. So it's been a partnership for almost 4 years now.
Fantastic.
So we published the book last year, and we had a big send-off in Boston. We had a huge book signing, and now we're promoting it, and we just wrote a second book, which I'm just finishing, called Beyond the Sale, the Companion Guide. And this one is for real estate managers and team leaders. And it has a lot of coaching tips. Because we found that managers like to give advice. They like to tell people what to do. And they're not really great necessarily at asking questions and allowing the agent to figure it out on their own, particularly when it comes to things like marketing plans and growing their businesses. I think people have to play to their strengths. And I think it's really important, so that somebody who's great who's a huge extrovert and loves to go to parties and is out and about all the time, is going to grow their business differently than from somebody who has a more intellectual approach, is more introverted, and wants to do more by, say, email and Facebook. Yeah. So to go out and say, you know, you got to crush it, you got to make 20 calls, you've got to do this and that, you know, you can't do that. There's no one way to grow your business. Like there's no one way to do anything. Mm-hmm. So this book is about helping people figure out what their strengths are, what their passions, what their purpose, what their values, which are all things we do as coaches, and then to figure out how they want to come up with creative marketing strategies to grow their business. And at the end of the book, they come up with a blueprint, which is a business plan for marketing and growing their business. But there's a lot of information in here that's more metaphysical. That's about how to use your consciousness, how you're thinking about things, how you're visualizing, what you're telling yourself, that are also very important. I call them secrets of manifestation. And I really think that people don't talk about this. It used to be very sort of occult. And now, you know, there are a lot of people like Deepak Chopra and people who do tapping, and there's all kinds of new modalities to use some of these techniques. Do you like tapping or is that what you do? Yeah.
Yeah, trained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great. And I'm also a big fan of Cheryl Richardson, who's a colleague of mine. Do you know Cheryl?
Yes, I do. Yes, I've read her books and workbooks.
Yeah, she's amazing. Well, she's a friend and colleague of mine. And I think in my approach, it's more heart-centered than, say, crush it, do the numbers, that kind of thing, because I don't think that works.
Doesn't suit everybody.
Pardon me?
I said doesn't suit everybody, as you say.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's a long, roundabout way to answer your question.
That's really interesting, because there are a couple of things that you've said there. So, for instance, the IAPC&M have just written their first co-authored book, which will be published next month. Yes, how to win clients, and more importantly, keep them, because we know it, you know, costs 10 times more to find a new client than it does to keep an existing one happy. So how do you find clients and how do you keep them happy? And I interviewed two of the co-authors today, and one of them, Lorna Phillips, who's also a lawyer in Jamaica, she's written it from a very spiritual point of view, her chapter, to say that you know, in a world with raising consciousness about compassion and sharing and the interconnectedness. So that's the take on her chapter, that, you know, we all are connected, and you can be spiritual and do business. It's not anything to do with religion. That's something completely separate. And then Maria Hocking, who I think of as the happiness coach in the UK, she's written from a heart-led point of view, that, you know, you can network like an Olympian, but you don't have to have this cold, hard sell approach, which is really quite desperate and off-putting. Whether you're sat next to somebody on the bus or whether you're in the queue in front of somebody at the shops, just talk to people, love people, encourage people the way you want to be dealt with, and clients will come mysteriously from the universe if you're a nice person to deal with. Because let's face it, despite all the technology we have today, people still buy people, and coaching is a conversation by any other name. So there's some similarities there between your previous answer to what I've been going through this afternoon with some of our co-authors.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Now we have a whole section, chapters called "It's All About Connection," and I think that business is all about connection, and especially now when people don't want to talk on the phone, they all want to text or email. You really, you don't connect. You know, I feel like I have relationships with people that I've never met because I talk to them on the phone, or I've seen their videos, or, you know, it's a better way to connect. But really picking up the phone and talking to somebody or having lunch with somebody is really the best way to grow your business.
I mean, from our point of view at the IAPC&M, I'll share an example with you, is that when people fill out the contact form, I would send them an email, and actually the conversion rate of engaging was really low. So we inserted the box, put your telephone number, made it mandatory, and for them to say, do you want us to phone you or do you want an email? And 9 times out of 10 people say, yeah, phone me. So I phone them and we strike up the most wonderful conversations. And yes, once they understand what we do and exactly who we are and what we offer, whether it's a member of the public looking for a coach to hire, or they want to go on an accredited course, or they want to become accredited, it's completely transformed the business, because we were saying, hello, coaching is about having a conversation. Why aren't we talking to people, giving them the opportunity, instead of relying on this email culture that somehow has come about? It's just not a great way of engaging.
No, I think that's brilliant. That's so true. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can change somebody's life with a conversation. I mean,
absolutely.
I had someone I had someone who read an article about my book in the local paper, a real estate agent, and she called me and she was miserable where she was. And she came over and we had a long conversation, and then she was like, what do I owe you? And I said, well, you don't owe me anything, because, we don't have a formal agreement. And we talked, and then we had lunch, and she's left where she was and moved to someplace that would make her happier. And when we had lunch, I said, how many more years do you want to be miserable at the situation? Are we going to have the same conversation in a year? And she said, well, I'm going to make changes.
Yeah.
And then I ran into her at the grocery store the other day, and I gave her a big hug, and I said, she was moving on, and I said, I don't think coaching is about alleviating suffering, but I'm really happy that, you've moved on.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of my coaching on Skype, telephone, and Zoom, because I'm an expat living in France. So I have to pitch, pace, and tonality. So the feedback that I get is all to do with energy, really, apart from the encouraging and empowering words, but it's the energy that people get. And that's what attracts you to somebody, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking coaching on the phone, and I don't do Zoom, is more intimate. And I've had clients who don't want to meet with me when I come into town. I don't know. I think it's because I'm not sure why, but it kind of breaks it's a different kind of intimacy when you're on the phone, and you can really even go deeper because the person is physically in your space. Do you find that?
Absolutely. I mentor students, and what they often say to me is, I can't get my head around coaching by Skype or telephone. I want to be in the room. And I say, well, you can't be with me. It has to be. So they try it, and they say, wow, that was amazing. I was able to listen at a much deeper level because I wasn't distracted by body language. Then there's also the added benefits that neither of you have had to travel anywhere. It's immediate. So, I meet so many people who are converted into thinking, wow, Skype really works. And the thing I keep hearing is, I can listen really deeply. Yeah.
Yeah, my listening is amazing compared to the way it was a while ago. I mean, I hear people, and also since writing the book, I'm very precise about grammar, and the subject and the verbs need to be plural or singular depending on the sentence. And I hear things even on television where they make grammatical errors that I never would have paid attention to.
Don't you think that's kind of ruined things for you? Because I started writing some books and co-authored books about 6 or 7 years ago, and I edited a series called Dialogue Guru, and it was about helping empower the clients to become their own guru. And so I bought that book, and I can't remember what it was called. It was the lady who ran the New York Times, and she was comma mad. I can't remember her name, but anyway, I bought lots of sort of reference books, and it completely ruined watching TV, reading all sorts of magazines for me, because the grammar's not right. They spelled that right. The punctuations, and you don't say it like that. So I became a critic all the time because it's a learning curve.
Yeah, well, I've also found I've been buying books that Ken recommends a lot of books to me, and there'll be a whole book about one concept. I won't mention any, even recent books by well-known owners of real estate firms, and the book will be one idea in 250 pages. Wow. And I find it shocking, whereas this book is dense with ideas, references, problems to solve, ideas to think about, resources. I mean, write an article, write a little blurb on a blog if you have one idea. I mean, don't force people to spend $20 to buy a book.
I want to learn more about your book, but I just want to share a statistic with you first that you might find interesting, Jerri. There's it is billed as the UK's most prolific information content provider in the UK, called Peter Thompson, a very generous man and coach who's been coaching similar sort of time span to yourself. And he was saying that he got some statistics out of the States that said, if your book is more than 96 pages long, so you'll have an almost 100% readership if your book is under 96 pages. If it's 100 pages to 200 pages, that drops dramatically to like 10%. And if it's 250 plus, you've got about 3% chance of somebody reading it. So he said short books are the way to go, which is kind of indicative of a busy 21st century person. I don't know if you'd come across that or how many pages are in your book, but it's interesting.
Well, this book is 100 and almost 200 pages. So I hope people will buy it and do the exercise. You have to do the exercises. It's more like a workbook with a lot of information and tons of resources. There's resources to the Gallop Strengths Finder. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No. Particularly for the people in the States or a global?
No, it's globally. It's a wonderful assessment called the Global Gallop Strengths Finder, and it helps people. It's a 20-minute test that you pay for, and then it assesses what your top strengths are. Because the idea being play to your strengths, don't develop your weaknesses. Do what you love and get paid for it, but figure out what you love to do and what you're great at doing, and also what you take for granted. Oh, everybody can write, or everybody can is a history buff and uses the past to inform the present. Or the other assessment I like is Gretchen Rubin's work, which is very good, and she has a book called The Four Tendencies, and she has a free assessment, which is also mentioned in my book, about how people respond to outer and inner expectations, which really ties into coaching, because they're people who are totally self-motivated, both inner and outer. So if they have to complete a project or pay their taxes or lose 5 pounds, they can do it. And then there are people who only respond to outer expectations, and those are the best candidates for coaching, because coaching is often about accountability. So if you have somebody who, and then there's one called the Rebel. I don't need to get into it, but it's really a fascinating assessment, and it's GretchenRubin.com. So I like to have whatever I'm reading about or learning about, I like to share it with my clients, as you I'm sure do, and put it in the book so that people have new ways of approaching things.
Well, I'm always saying to coaches that I come across is that one of the tips that I would give somebody is to become really well read, because their clients will quite often want you to make book recommendations, and they're interested in what you're doing from a CPD point of view as well, because it's about that organic growth. So you've got a big book there, and it just reminded me of a quote. I think it was Kristen Hitchens that said, everybody's got a book in them, but not everybody should write one. For some people it should stay buried. But you've written this fabulous, bold, beautiful looking book. So share with us, if you would, Jerri, what are some of the tips that transcend the real estate market to coaching?
Transcend the real estate. Well, I think the most important thing is really has to do with intention. About getting clear what your goals are and really what you want to create in your life, both personally and your business. And that's where coaches really help clarify and listen deeply to the client. So I think that's one thing. I think another key thing from the book is really self-acknowledgement and self-awareness, because often people they take for granted what their strengths are, as I mentioned earlier, and what they're great at, and they don't really think, oh, that's a big deal when it is. And then when people achieve something, they often just go, that was fine. And so as I have a whole section in here about acknowledgement, and in the new book about how to acknowledge yourself. And then often people will read a list of their accomplishments to the coach, or talk about what they achieved during the week or didn't achieve. And they'll go, well, you know, I didn't walk, and I slept late, and I made 4 phone calls, and I worked on my book a little, and then I got a new listing, and and so when I'm working with them, I say, wait a minute, you know, do you realize what you just said? And I'm sure you do that as well. And it's called burying the lead in journalism. You know, they just bury the most important thing, and they don't really realize that was huge. So I think it's important, if you're self-coaching, if you're working on your own, for you to really reflect and acknowledge what you've created. And we talk a lot in the book about acknowledging your success, and also about gratitude. So maybe we'll kind of end this on gratitude. I think that being grateful for what you've achieved and what you have in your life, even if it's something like, I was able to have a shower today and the water was hot and I had wonderful soap, which half the people in the world don't have right now, or I have a wonderful partner who I love, and I'm so grateful, or I have great health, or the weather's fantastic and my daffodils are in bloom. I think creating a practice of gratitude is really important, and it creates momentum for having more things in your life that you feel grateful for. They don't have to be earth-shaking, but they have to be things that just give you pleasure or joy or happiness.
You're absolutely right, Jerri. I mean, I say to because I'm also a business coach, and a lot of my clients are coaches, and one of the things I say to them is, right, set yourself up an achievers file, and every time you get a thank you email or a thank you card, put it in there, because on the times that you think, oh, am I on the right journey? Am I making a difference? Can I do this? Look at your file, and it will reiterate that you are on the right path, that you are making a difference, that you're touching people's lives, and you can do this, and it will lift you up. And I think that the reminder about gratitude is so important, because most clients will come to you and say what they don't want. They're very clear about what they don't want, but they're not always very clear about what they do want. And being grateful for what we have, it might not be exactly what they want, but being grateful for what we have actually builds on that momentum and helps them decide on their goals, and whether they're visual or auditory or whatever, they're going to be able to better articulate the end result if they can start from a place of gratitude for what they do have: a healthy body, even if it's overweight, a good night's sleep, even if they're depressed, and so on. So I think those are 2 very important lessons. That book sounds amazing. I'm glad you brought out a workbook as well.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. No, it was great to work on. It was difficult. You know, it's hard to write. Yeah. Even though I like to write, just sometimes it would take me an hour to work on a paragraph. I don't think people appreciate writers. I have a whole different appreciation now for people that can turn out well-written books. So I'd love to read the one that you mentioned.
Well, we'll swap books for sure.
Yeah, great.
What was some of the inner work that you found yourself doing, Jerri? Because obviously you've self-coached yourself, presumably, for years. You've been your own best client. But writing the book, what sort of inner resources did that really have to draw on, apart from the discipline of writing?
For myself, well, I've had coaches for a long time, off and on. I didn't have a coach for this book, but I do a lot of goal setting and setting interim goals, and I was very clear about the outcome, which is that I really wanted to affect a lot of people and help a lot of people, because a lot of real estate agents make a ton of money, but they don't have a life. They have no love relationship. They don't spend time with their children. They're sick. They're tired, whatever. So I would think about how the people use my consciousness in a way of having goals. And I also have always had a practice about paying attention to what I tell myself. I think that that's really important, that if you tell yourself this is going to be awful, or I can't do this, or whatever, I always say things like, instead, if I do something like bang my foot, I'll say, God bless it. I won't ever say, negative. I I won't say never, but I try not to really say negative things about myself, and I catch other people, friends, and I actually say something to them. So I use self-talk, self-belief. I have a vision board that I've done on occasion, and I try to have a really strong positive attitude. And I think having a writing partner helped a lot because, as I said, he would push me to just delve deeper and give me a lot of support. So that was good. Plus, I have a partner in my life, and he was someone I could go to if I needed support.
Yeah. So your writing partner really was another fundamental of coaching. It was about the accountability, wasn't it? Not only having the intent, because a lot of people say they're going to write a book, but less than 10% of people actually do it. But when you put it out there and you share it and you've got to be accountable with the results, things happen.
Yeah, and that's true. And I'm very secret of the way I work. So this was a different step. And Ken, he didn't micromanage the process, and he really didn't get involved in the weeds. I use that expression. He didn't get involved in the nitty-gritty as much as somebody else, which was better for me because I like to just have the opportunity to write, and then if somebody doesn't like it, or wants, it was mostly he wanted more depth or more detail or more examples. So it was a really good collaboration, and he's a fantastic guy. So it's been really good.
I look forward to reading it. So as we're coming towards the end of our time, Jerri, because I'm conscious of the fact that you're running a business and you're an author and very busy like the rest of us. What do you do to unwind and decompress at the end of a busy day? What do you do for fun that perhaps nobody would really suspect you of enjoying?
Well, the thing I do for compression is I take baths, because I feel like for me that's one way to just relax and unwind and sort of have another level of peace in my life. But I have a great relationship, which I really wanted for a long time. So, we spend a lot of time together. I entertain, I cook. I have 2 kitties, so we take one of them out for walks, and we live in a beautiful part of the country. So I really appreciate nature, and I like to travel. I don't think I have any particular fantastically unusual interest, but I've always been into the self-help movement since I was in my probably late 20s. So I read a lot of other self-help books, and I've always been interested in that genre. So I think becoming a coach, after all that I've done, because I have a master's in public health, and I've worked in real estate, and I've worked in small businesses, and I've done just a million things, but I think they've all centered around helping other people and helping myself grow and become a better person and become happier and more fulfilled. And being grounded in nature sounds like it's quite important to you as well. Yes. Well, living in New Mexico is very different from living in an urban area, and so it's hard not to just go outside and see the incredible wildlife here. We had a bobcat outside my office once. We've had a bear in the garbage. We have coyotes at night. It's very different from the East Coast. I bet. So if you were marooned on a desert island, what would be your one luxury and the one book and the one piece of music you would take with you, Jerri? You've got 3 things to take. What would you take? One book. Let's come back. I don't know, probably Shakespeare, because I haven't really read enough Shakespeare. So I would probably like to do that. I would take Vivaldi's 4 Seasons. Lovely. And I would have to have coffee. So I don't know how I would do that. Okay. Chocolate and coffee. I have two things, but all right. Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you very much for your time, Jerri. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you personally like this. I've loved my time with you. You've been very generous. Thank you. And we will definitely swap books and put links up with this blog so people can, if you've got a page where they can buy it, we'll sort all that out afterwards, because it sounds like a fantastic business manual. Rather than being an estate agent or a coaching book. It's a business manual, so we'll all want that, I'm sure. And thank you. It was such a privilege to meet you and talk to you. It's been just fantastic. So thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye, Jerri. Bye.